One of the things Paddington liked most about living with the Brown family was that he made lots of new friends. The nicest one of all was Mr. Gruber. Mr. Gruber kept an antique shop in the Portobello Road, and most mornings they had their elevenses together. What Mr. Gruber didn't know about antiques wasn't worth knowing, and to enter his shop was like entering another world. So when he arrived one morning and found that his friend appeared to be washing one of his pictures, he was most surprised. "Don't worry, Mr. Brown," explained Mr. Gruber. "I'm only restoring it." "So?" Paddington looked at it doubtfully. "It doesn't seem to be one thing or the other, Mr. Gruber," he said. "Ah," said Mr. Gruber, "there's more in paintings than meets the eye. You see, in the old days, Mr. Brown, artists were often so poor they had to do their paintings on top of old canvases. Sometimes if you clean a painting, you find a much more valuable one underneath. Do you realize, Mr. Brown, this could be an old master?" "It looks more like an old mistress to me, Mr. Gruber," said Paddington. Paddington turned the matter over in his mind all the way home, and by the time he reached number 32 Windsor Gardens, he was very thoughtful indeed. Mr. Brown had lots of pictures, and one of them had been standing in the front room for several days now, doing absolutely nothing. "I think," he announced to the world in general, "I may try restoring it for him. I expect he'll like that." Paddington had a hopeful nature, but as time went on, he began to get a bit worried. Far from being restored, Mr. Brown's picture looked as if it would never be quite the same again. Worse still, there was no sign of another painting underneath. It was, to say the least of it, a mess. It was only when he tried turning it round the other way that he discovered there was a label on the back. It said, "Property of Mr. Henry Brown, entry for the Portobello Road Art Society painting competition, to be collected." Mr. Brown's painting had started out as a study of some boats on a lake. Now it looked more like a storm at sea. Even with real paints, Paddington wouldn't have fancied his chances of repairing the damage, but with only tomato sauce and marmalade to work with, he had a nasty feeling there might well be an even bigger storm before the day was out. Paddington went to bed early that afternoon, suffering from a mysterious attack of something called restoritis. It was a most unusual complaint, which had caused him to come out in red and orange spots. If they looked suspiciously like tomato sauce and marmalade stains, he managed to hide the fact behind a large bowl of calves' foot jelly, Mrs. Bird's recipe for all ills. It wasn't until much later on, when he heard a strange voice downstairs, that he decided to put in an appearance again. "Remarkable use of colour," said the voice. "Most unusual, using marmalade chunks instead of paint." To Paddington's surprise, Mr. Brown's picture was occupying a position of honour in the middle of the room, and on the frame there was a large red rosette. "That means it's won first prize," explained Judy. "I didn't know you painted abstracts, Dad," said Jonathan. "I don't," said Mr. Brown, "but I'd like to abstract an answer from whoever did do it." "I was really looking for an old master, Mr. Brown," said Paddington, "but I'm afraid it went wrong." "It looks more like a young bear to me," said the judge, "and I'll say one thing, it not only looks good, it tastes good as well. Try some." "Thank you very much," said Paddington, "but I think you'll find it tastes even nicer if you stand it the right way up." Soon after Paddington went to live at number 32 Windsor Gardens, Mr. Brown decided to decorate the attic so that he could have a room of his own. But like most of his jobs, it got left half done, until one morning Paddington decided it was high time he stirred things up a bit. Paddington wasn't sure how long it took him to do the wallpapering, but he did discover one thing. Apart from making him hot, it also showed up the ceiling. The ceiling definitely needed whitewashing.
"Is that you, Paddington?" shouted Mr. Brown.
"Are you all right?" cried Mrs. Brown. "Yes and no," answered Paddington truthfully. The plain fact was that when he'd started work there had been a window and a door. Now there was only a window left. "Perhaps you'd better let yourselves in," he exclaimed, "wherever you are. I think I must have papered myself in by mistake." Paddington expected to be in trouble, but when he was writing his adventure down in his scrapbook that night, he suddenly found himself with several extra lots of bun money. Mrs. Brown gave him some because at long last they had to have a real decorator in. And Mr. Brown's was because he hadn't wanted to do the job anyway. "Bears," said Mrs. Bird, "always fall on their feet." "Perhaps you'd like me to decorate your kitchen for you, Mrs. Bird," said Paddington hopefully. "No, thank you," said Mrs. Bird, and she gave Paddington a little extra something too, just to make sure he didn't. One day, Paddington bought himself a camera in the market. It had a tripod, and a hood to keep out the light, and there was even a book of instructions. Altogether it seemed very good value indeed. So after taking a quick bite of a marmalade sandwich, he got ready to take his first picture. There was a very interesting chapter in the instruction book on taking action shots. But it wasn't as easy as it sounded. In the end, he decided to take a family group. It seemed much safer.
"I hope he's not long," said Mr. Brown. "I've got cramp coming on."
"I wouldn't move if I were you," said Jonathan. "We'd never hear the last of it," agreed Judy. "He's only got one plate."
"I've only got one leg," groaned Mr. Brown.
"Shh, Henry," said Mrs. Brown. "I think he's doing something." Paddington consulted his instruction book. "I have to measure the distance," he announced. "I'll use this piece of string. If I don't measure the distance properly, I shan't know how far away you are, and you may come out all blurred."
"I'd sooner be blurred than have my ear pulled off," grumbled Mr. Brown.
"Ooh! I'm afraid bears' slip knots are a bit hard to untie," said Paddington. "Anyway, I think I shall have to ask you all to move. The sun's in a different place." "Perhaps if one of us took it," said Mrs. Bird, "you could be in the picture yourself." Paddington considered the matter over a marmalade sandwich. "I shall press the shutter," he announced, and then run round the front. "Even bears can't run that fast," murmured Mr. Brown. Paddington gave Mr. Brown a hard stare through his lens. But as he did so, something very strange happened. "What on earth's he up to now?" exclaimed Mr. Brown. "He looks as if he's practicing for the ballet or something." "Mind my petunias." "Too late," groaned Jonathan. "Are you all right?" called Mrs. Brown. "I think so, Mrs. Brown," said Paddington, "except I've pressed the shutter by mistake. I'm afraid I've been having trouble with a bumblebee again. It must have been after my marmalade sandwich. Perhaps I'd better finish it before anything else happens." No one, least of all Paddington, expected his photograph to come out. But to everyone's surprise, when the plate was developed and printed, there was quite a clear picture. "Not bad," said Mr. Brown. "Not bad at all. What is it?" "Take a look in my window," said the man. Paddington hurried outside in order to see for himself. Apart from his photograph, there was a label. It said, "Picture of a bumblebee, taken by local bear, both very rare." One day, Mr. Gruber took Paddington on an outing to an auction sale. He bought a catalogue of the items to be sold, and then found a seat near the front, so that they would have a good view of all that went on. Paddington decided straight away that he liked auction sales. It was all very friendly. In fact, he hardly had time to sit down before someone waved. So he waved back. Then another man waved.
£3 on bid.
So he waved at him too, and then raised his hat several more times for good measure.
£4 on bid. £5 over there.
"Going," called the auctioneer, pointing at Paddington. "Going, going, gone." "But I've only just got here," exclaimed Paddington. "Don't worry," said Mr. Gruber. "That's the auctioneer. He's just sold something." Paddington gave the man a hard stare. "I hope it's not that table," he exclaimed. "It must be full of dents by now." "Lot 65, 1 carpentry set, sold to the young bear with the sandwiches for £5. £5? exclaimed Paddington. "For a carpentry set? But I've only got 10p." Mr. Gruber reached for his wallet. "I expect it was because you waved, Mr. Brown," he whispered. "You see, if you nod your head or even scratch your nose at an auction sale, they often think it's a sign you're interested." Paddington sat very still, hardly daring to breathe, let alone nibble his sandwich, in case he bought something else by mistake. "What am I bid for this old highwayman's pistol?" called the auctioneer. "Once the property of Dick Turpin." "I think I might try for that," whispered Mr. Gruber. "I've been after one for ages." "Come along, who's going to start the bidding?" £10, called someone at the back of the hall. 11, called Mr. Gruber. 12, shouted the other man. "Oh dear," said Mr. Gruber. "I hope I don't lose it, Mr. Brown. £13. 14, shouted Paddington. "Any advance on £14? 15, shouted Paddington wildly. £15, called the auctioneer. Going, going, gone. Sold to the young bear gentleman on my right." Mr. Gruber began to feel that perhaps taking Paddington to an auction sale wasn't such a good thing after all. "Perhaps I'd better not do any more bidding, Mr. Gruber," began Paddington. "I don't think bears are very good at it." "Lot 67, a very unusual marmalade stand." Paddington hastily changed his mind. "I'd like one of those," he exclaimed excitedly. "Mrs. Bird's always grumbling because my jars get sticky." "What am I bid for this fine piece of antique silver?" "5p," cried Paddington excitedly. "5p," repeated the auctioneer. "Did I hear someone say 5p?" "6p," said Paddington. "If you ask me," said a voice, "that young bear knows something we don't." "Perhaps it's a fake," said another. "No one would bid 6p if it were a real silver stand." "Going," said the auctioneer desperately. "Is that all I'm bid? Will no one make an advance on 6p? Going, going, gone. "And a very good buy indeed, Mr. Brown," said Mr. Gruber later that day. "It more than makes up for the money we lost on your carpentry set and the pistol." "It more than makes up for missing our 11s too, Mr. Gruber," said Paddington happily. "Besides, I think marmalade tastes even better when it comes out of an antique, especially when it's a sixpenny one."